When her father was vice president, she did get a job at the State Department. And then in 2006, so in the second Bush term, where Vice President Cheney's influence, particularly on foreign policy issues, started to wane, Barton Gellman's seminal biography about Dick Cheney, Angler, goes into great detail about how Vice President Cheney's efforts to start a new war against Iran were thwarted as he lost influence in the second term. But while he was still trying to hold on to that influence and advance that idea of bombing Iran in the second Bush term, Liz Cheney at the State Department was, in 2006, appointed to head up a secretive group called the Iran-Syria Policy and Operations Group, which was widely seen as basically the start a war with Iran planning cell inside the State Department. It was a secretive group. The most information that was ever published about it was after it had quietly been shut down, even though there'd been no contemporaneous announcement about being shut down at all. The Bush administration broadly and the State Department in particular really didn't seem to want to talk about it until it was gone.
Shysters, people ripping off the Republican Party for their own self-aggrandizement, for their own egos, to make money. I mean, I would put Todd Akin, Newt Gingrich, Liz Cheney, Mark Sanford, all in the same boat. Oh, and the consultants who persuaded Linda McMahon and John Racy to run.
Why are you attacking Liz Cheney and Newt?
Why? Because Newt was never, and well, I'm already all in, but he ran for president. And look, I've made mistakes like this in the past too, supporting congressmen, supporting inspiration leaders.
No, your biggest mistake was Christie.
Perhaps it was. My point is, and please, Republicans, looking ahead, but I'm talking mostly about Senate and House elections, in 2016, we are not going to be nominating a congressman, an inspirational leader, businessman. Only look at governors and senators.
Let me ask
these are people who are looking for TV shows, who are looking to make money. Why should we be having, and I love Liz Cheney, but why should we be having a rancorous primary against a good Republican senator other than for Liz Cheney?
First of all, it's not the president's piece of legislation. The second thing is it gets passed.
And the president again, reform, James? I thought you just said this was going to be like his shining success.
Excuse me for speaking while you're interrupting me.
No, go ahead.
But thank you. I appreciate that. Again, to Republican standards, 120% increase in family premiums is fine. 60% of people in bankruptcy
James,
is fine.
are you going to ignore the congressional budget?
Again, I'm sorry. Again, it was no Democrat that said that deficits didn't matter. And by the way, this thing is not, again, I'm sorry, Larry.
All kinds of great talking points around this.
So it's not true. I did not tell Senator Enzi I wouldn't run if he did. I suppose he's just confused.
See, she'd said before, we need a new generation of leaders. Now she's like, oh, I guess that old man is a little confused.
Dover Air Force Base to honor dead American soldiers on their final journey home. And Vice President Cheney never did either. Hey, Liz, have you ever lost a relative in battle? I have. My cousin Johnny, West Point graduate, just like his father before him. I wish the president or the vice president had met his casket on the way home. You know what never means, Liz? It means zero. It means that in over 7 years of 2 wars, your dad never left the comfort of his White House office or the vice president's mansion and got himself up to Dover to bear witness to how his warmongering fell on families of dead American soldiers. Never, not once. Liz, don't let your dad do this to you. Don't let him parade you onto the stage to defend the indefensible. Let him suffer the full weight of the shame that we know he must feel when he watches Barack Obama do what he never had the decency to do.
I'm a 4th generation Wyomingite, and Phil and I are blessed and honored to be raising the 5th generation right here. When my relatives came here first in 1907, they were among the folks who came because they cared deeply about freedom, because they understood what it meant to live in a place that self-determination was honored, that grit and courage meant something. And it is precisely those freedoms that are under attack today.
This was the character of the Liz Cheney Senate campaign in Wyoming. Wyoming's not that big. Mom, did you have to? I mean, this is Wyoming after all, right? It's a pretty conservative state. Until a few months ago, I should tell you, Mike Enzi did have a very big name challenger who was going at him from his right, trying to take his Senate seat from him in a Republican primary in Wyoming. Until a few months ago, until January, Mike Enzi was going to have to run to hold on to his Senate seat in the Republican primary against Dick Cheney's daughter. This is one of the weirder things that has happened in this election cycle for these midterms this year. I mean, it was weird when this story started. It was weird when it ended very badly. It's now even weird in retrospect. I mean, Liz Cheney has been living in the Washington, D.C. area in Virginia for many, many, many years. But last year, unexpectedly, she moved back to Wyoming. She made claims that she'd actually been living there all along. She declared that she would run to unseat Republican incumbent Senator Mike Enzi. It was a surprise announcement. Everybody in Wyoming politics appeared to be pretty much blindsided. Liz Cheney appeared to have lined up no support in the state really at all before she made the announcement that she was going to try to topple the popular incumbent Republican senator. Right out of the gate, things went sort of poorly. I mean, particularly her efforts to portray herself as a regular down-home Wyoming gal who'd always lived there. She got into some trouble with that right away when she tried to buy a Wyoming resident fishing license, even though she'd been living in Virginia until about 5 minutes before. And so she didn't actually meet the residency requirements to get a resident fishing license.